If you're still awake, it's not because you failed at sleeping. You're awake because your system keeps checking whether sleep is happening yet. That checking has been running quietly for hours, and it hasn't stopped on its own. What matters is that nothing needs to be fixed tonight. There is a specific shift that happens when effort drops away. It does not happen all at once, and it does not require cooperation. Right now, the body is tired enough. The muscles already know this. The problem has been the watching. That quiet monitoring keeps pressure in the chest and neck. Pressure keeps breathing just slightly shorter than it wants to be. Shortened breathing keeps the system alert. Notice how nothing is being asked of you here. No posture to hold. No target to reach. Breath is already moving. Air enters without instruction. Air leaves again on its own. As air leaves, there is a small drop in internal pressure. That drop tells the baroreceptors there is no urgency. When urgency is absent, the heart does not need to prepare. Preparation has been the tiring part. Preparing to sleep, checking for sleep. For now, there is only the leaving phase of the breath. It lasts slightly longer than the entering. That lengthening is enough to begin regulation. The vagal response does not require belief. It responds to pressure changes only, and pressure is already shifting. Notice how the jaw is not actively holding. Even if it is not loose, it is not tightening further. That is sufficient. Another breath completes itself. Inhale arrives quietly. Exhale leaves a little longer again. That longer leaving phase increases CO2 tolerance. Increased tolerance reduces the need to stay alert. Alertness begins to lose its job. Thoughts may still be present. They do not need to be followed. Following them has been optional all along. As pressure continues to drop, the prefrontal cortex quiets first. Planning becomes inefficient. Sequencing loses momentum. There is no need to finish anything when this state can be returned to again. Incomplete thoughts dissolve faster. The system prefers that. Another breath passes through. Air in, air out, slightly slower. With each slower exit, sensory signals dim by a fraction. Not gone, just less sharp. The shoulders do not need to drop. They only need to stop lifting. That shift is already happening. The nervous system responds to consistency, not force. Consistency is present now. Breath continues without being improved. Inhale appears. Exhale lingers again. Heart rhythm begins to smooth. Variability increases slightly. That change supports settling. Settling does not feel dramatic. It feels like less to manage, less to keep track of. If attention wanders, regulation continues anyway. Nothing important is missed. The system keeps going. Another breath cycle completes itself. Inhale remains ordinary. Exhale remains longer. That repetition tells the brainstem the environment is stable. Stability reduces scanning. Reduced scanning lowers mental noise. Noise fades before silence appears. This is that stage. Nothing is being rushed. Nothing is waiting for sleep to arrive. The body is simply allowed to continue. Breath moves again. Leaving lasts longer. The system recognizes this pattern now. Recognition prevents effort from restarting. Effort is what kept things active before. As effort drops, internal edges soften. Sensations become less defined. Awareness does not need to sharpen. Another breath completes itself. Air in, air out, steady and unforced. That steadiness continues without needing attention. This is a familiar state your system already knows how to return to. Your system has already begun adjusting in the background. It does this without asking for attention. There is less pressure to track what is happening now. Tracking was never necessary for regulation to continue. Breath moves again. Inhale arrives without urgency. Exhale leaves longer, easing internal tension. That longer leaving phase continues signaling safety at the level of the brainstem. Safety reduces the need for alert posture. Notice how the body is not preparing for anything next. No subtle bracing. No forward lean. Preparation requires energy. Energy is no longer being allocated there. Another breath completes itself. Air enters quietly. Air exits with slightly more space. That space allows internal signals to slow. Slower signals reduce cognitive throughput. Thoughts may still appear as fragments. They do not assemble into full sequences. Incomplete sequences dissolve faster. This isn't something you need to watch closely. Close noticing would increase activation. The nervous system prefers low resolution right now. Details soften automatically. Breath continues. Inhale remains even. Exhale remains longer. Heart rhythm continues smoothing. Baroreflex feedback remains stable. When pressure sensors report stability, vigilance decreases. Vigilance fades without effort. Another breath cycle completes. Nothing changes abruptly. Change here is gradual by design. Gradual change prevents the system from checking again. Checking would restart alert loops. Notice how the eyes do not need to focus. Even if open, focus would soften. Soft focus reduces cortical demand. Breathing continues on its own schedule. Exhale lingers just enough. That lingering phase increases parasympathetic tone. Tone does not feel heavy. It feels neutral. Neutral states are easy to stay in. They do not require maintenance. Another breath completes itself. Inhale ordinary. Exhale steady. As regulation deepens, internal narration loses volume. Words become less defined. Sentences do not finish. There is no need to correct this. Correction would increase effort. The system recognizes when effort is absent. Absence of effort allows deeper settling. Breath continues without reference. No comparison to earlier moments. Comparison activates memory circuits. Those circuits are already disengaging. Another breath passes through. Exhale leaves longer again. That repetition builds predictability. Predictability supports disengagement from monitoring. Monitoring fades before awareness does. This distinction matters. Awareness can remain without effort. Monitoring cannot. Right now, awareness does not need direction. Direction would imply a task. Breathing continues. Heart rhythm remains even. Muscle tone stays low. The neck does not need to release fully. It only needs to stop tightening further. That condition is met. Another breath completes. Air out remains longer. CO2 tolerance continues increasing slightly. Increased tolerance reduces the urge to adjust breathing. Adjustment urges fade. Fading urges reduce internal noise. Noise does not disappear suddenly. It thins. Thinning is easier for the system to accept. Acceptance keeps regulation uninterrupted. Breath moves again. Nothing needs to be remembered. Memory formation is not prioritized now. That frees additional capacity. Freed capacity is not used. It simply remains unused. Another breath completes itself. Inhale calm. Exhale slow. This rhythm continues without instruction. This continuation is a familiar state your system already knows how to return to. Your background state continues without interruption. Nothing new needs to happen for settling to deepen. Breath moves again. Inhale arrives quietly. Exhale leaves longer, unhurried. That unhurried leaving phase keeps internal pressure low. Low pressure reduces signal urgency across the system. Urgency was the main source of wakefulness. Without urgency, alert circuits lose priority. Notice how the chest is not lifting as high. Movement stays shallow and efficient. Efficiency conserves energy. Conserved energy is not redirected elsewhere. It simply remains unused. Another breath completes itself. Air enters. Air exits with the same longer duration. That consistency reinforces safety signaling. Safety signaling quiets threat detection. When threat detection quiets, mental scanning reduces. Scanning was subtle, but constant. Reduction in scanning allows sensory detail to blur. Blurring happens without effort. Thought fragments may still surface. They arrive without momentum. They leave before completion. Completion is no longer supported. Support has been withdrawn gradually. Breathing continues in the same pattern. Exhale remains the longer phase. That longer phase keeps parasympathetic tone dominant. Dominance here feels neutral, not heavy. Neutral states do not demand interpretation. Interpretation would activate cognition. Cognition is already losing clarity. Edges soften first. The sense of location becomes less precise. Not gone, just less exact. Another breath completes itself. Air leaves slowly again. As exhale lengthens, heart rhythm remains smooth. Smooth rhythm stabilizes blood pressure feedback. Stable feedback prevents arousal spikes. Spikes are no longer forming. This absence continues without needing notice. But it does not need to be monitored. Monitoring would introduce effort. Effort is not supported here. Breath continues. Inhale ordinary. Exhale longer again. With each cycle, internal narration loses structure. Words loosen. Syntax breaks apart. Broken syntax is easier for the system to release. Release does not feel like letting go. It feels like forgetting. Another breath passes through. No adjustment follows. The absence of adjustment reduces muscular tone. Tone lowers without dropping fully. The spine does not need to sink. It only needs to stop holding upright. Holding is eased. That condition continues without needing attention. Breathing remains consistent. Exhale remains longer. Consistency allows the thalamus to reduce relay intensity. Reduced relay intensity dims sensory input. Dim input lowers awareness resolution. Lower resolution is easier to remain with. Another breath completes itself. Air leaves slowly. There is less distinction between one moment and the next. Sequence begins to blur. When sequence blurs, time tracking weakens. Weak tracking reduces anticipation. Anticipation was tied to checking. Checking is no longer active. Breath continues without reference. No need to compare cycles. Comparison activates memory loops. Those loops are quiet now. Another breath completes. Inhale soft. Exhale slow. This pattern remains stable. This stability continues, carrying the system deeper on its own. This regulated state holds here without supervision. Nothing is checking whether it should continue. Breath moves again. Inhale arrives without definition. Exhale leaves longer, steady. That longer leaving phase keeps internal pressure signals low. Low pressure prevents alert circuits from reassembling. Reassembly would require contrast. Contrast is no longer present. The body does not feel heavier. It feels less outlined. Edges soften further. Another breath completes itself. Air in. Air out, slightly slower again. With each slower exit, CO2 tolerance remains elevated. Elevated tolerance reduces corrective impulses. Corrective impulses were subtle. They are no longer initiating. Thought activity becomes sparse. What appears does not link forward. Forward linking is inefficient now. Inefficiency discourages continuation. Continuation fades on its own. Breathing remains consistent. Exhale remains the dominant phase. Dominance here does not feel active. It feels automatic. Automatic regulation does not require awareness. Awareness can drift without consequence. Another breath completes. Air leaves slowly. As sensory relay intensity drops, internal sound softens. External signals lose priority. Priority loss reduces orientation. Orientation is no longer supported. Without orientation, location becomes approximate. Approximation requires less processing. Breath continues without being followed. Following would add effort. Effort remains absent. Absence holds. Another breath passes through. Inhale, indistinct. Exhale, longer. The heart maintains an even rhythm. Even rhythm stabilizes vascular tone. Stable tone prevents sudden arousal. Sudden shifts do not occur. The neck and jaw remain neutral. Neutral does not mean loose. It means unchanged. Unchanged states are easy to stay in. They require no correction. Breath continues again. Exhale stays longer. As cycles repeat, narrative capacity thins. Words lose order. Order dissolves before meaning does. Meaning fades next. This sequence continues on its own. Another breath completes itself. Air leaves slowly. When meaning fades, concern fades with it. Concern was tied to interpretation. Interpretation is no longer efficient. Efficiency matters to the nervous system. Breathing remains the same. No optimization occurs. Optimization would imply a goal. Goals are inactive. Another breath passes. Exhale remains extended. Extended exhale continues, supporting parasympathetic dominance. Dominance holds without pressure. Pressure is not required now. Neither is release. The spine remains where it is. Support structures stay minimal. Minimal support conserves resources. Resources are not redirected. Breath continues. Inhale, faint. Exhale, slow. With each cycle, separation between moments decreases. Moments blend. Blending reduces tracking. Tracking was linked to wakefulness. Wakefulness is no longer being reinforced. Reinforcement has stopped. Another breath completes itself. Air out remains longer. Your system recognizes this continuity. Continuity allows deeper drift. Drift here does not feel like movement. It feels like less definition. Less definition is easier to maintain. Nothing here needs to be maintained. Breath continues. Nothing interrupts. This state continues here without needing confirmation. Nothing checks whether it is deep enough. Breath moves again. Inhale arrives faintly. Exhale leaves longer, smooth, regulating. That longer leaving phase keeps internal pressure signals quiet. Quiet signals prevent alert circuits from reforming. Reforming would require urgency. Urgency is not being supported. Another breath completes itself. Air enters without edge. Air exits with more space again. With each extended exit, the vagal response remains active. Active here means steady, not strong. Steady states are easier for the system to remain inside. They do not trigger correction. Thought activity is now intermittent. What appears does not stay long enough to organize. Organization requires energy. Energy is no longer being allocated there. Breathing continues in the same pattern. Exhale remains the longer phase. That repetition stabilizes heart rate variability. Stable variability reduces internal alarms. Alarms are not suppressed. They simply stop initiating. Another breath passes through. Air leaves slowly again. As arousal drops, the sense of effort fades further. Effortlessness does not feel like release. It feels like absence. Absence does not need to be held. Holding would be a task. Tasks are not being generated now. Generation has slowed. Breath continues. Inhale barely registers. Exhale remains longer. As sensory relay intensity drops, internal boundaries soften. Where one sensation ends and another begins is less clear. Clarity is not required for safety. Safety is already being signaled. Another breath completes itself. Air out stays slow. That slowness supports continued parasympathetic dominance. Dominance remains neutral and stable. Neutral stability discourages mental checking. Checking would increase contrast. Contrast is fading. Edges are dissolving. Breathing remains unchanged. No improvement is needed. Improvement would imply dissatisfaction. Dissatisfaction is not present. Another breath passes. Exhale extends again. With each cycle, temporal sequencing weakens. Before and after lose separation. When separation fades, anticipation cannot form. Anticipation was tied to wakefulness. Wakefulness is no longer reinforced. Reinforcement has stopped quietly. Breath continues without reference. No counting. No comparison. Comparison circuits are offline. Offline circuits do not demand input. Another breath completes itself. Air leaves slowly. As cortical activity reduces, inner language thins further. Words appear without order. Order dissolves before awareness does. This prevents sudden shifts. Sudden shifts would activate orientation. Orientation is not supported now. Breath continues. Inhale faint. Exhale long and steady. The body remains where it is. No signal suggests change. Signals for change require contrast. Contrast is thinned too far. Another breath passes through. Air exits slowly again. With reduced contrast, monitoring dissolves. Dissolving monitoring frees additional capacity. Freed capacity is not used. Unused capacity supports drift. Breath continues without interruption. Nothing needs to happen. Your system recognizes this continuity here. Continuity allows deeper settling. Another breath completes itself. Air out remains longer. This pattern remains stable. This stability holds without needing attention. The system no longer distinguishes between maintaining and resting. That distinction has lost usefulness. Breath continues. Inhale is barely outlined. Exhale remains longer, steady, regulating. That extended leaving phase keeps internal pressure signals low and even. Even signals do not trigger orientation. Orientation would require a reference point. Reference points are no longer forming. Another breath completes itself. Air exits slowly again. With each slow exit, the boundary between sensation and absence softens. Soft boundaries require less processing. Processing has been reducing for some time now. Reduction continues without instruction. Thoughts no longer arrive as thoughts. They appear as faint impulses. Impulses do not develop structure. Structure requires sequencing. Sequencing is inactive. Breathing remains unchanged. Exhale remains the longer phase. That consistency keeps parasympathetic tone dominant. Dominance feels like neutrality. Neutrality does not invite response. Response is unnecessary now. Another breath passes through. Air leaves slowly. As response readiness fades, the sense of doing loosens. Doing has been dissolving in layers. First, effort dropped. Then checking. Now, even ownership softens. There is less sense of something being managed. Less sense of a manager. This is not a loss. It is a reduction in load. Breath continues again. Inhale faint. Exhale long and smooth. With reduced load, internal reference to self becomes less defined. Definition is no longer needed for safety. Safety is already being signaled continuously. Signals do not require interpretation. Another breath completes itself. Air exits slowly again. As interpretation fades, inner language thins further. Pronouns lose relevance. Relevance was tied to narrative. Narrative capacity has been dissolving. Dissolution here is gradual and quiet. Quiet processes do not trigger alarms. Breathing remains steady. Exhale continues to last longer. That longer duration supports deepening vagal engagement. Engagement remains even, not forceful. Even engagement keeps heart rhythm smooth. Smooth rhythm prevents abrupt shifts. Abrupt shifts are no longer forming here. The system has moved past that threshold. Another breath passes through. Air out, slow and continuous. As continuity holds, the sense of time becomes diffuse. Moments no longer separate cleanly. Without separation, there is nothing to anticipate. Anticipation cannot assemble. Without anticipation, identity effort fades further. Identity was partly maintained by projection. Projection is no longer supported. Support has been withdrawn naturally. Breathing continues without reference. No need to locate the body precisely. Location is approximate now. Approximation is sufficient. Another breath completes itself. Exhale remains extended. As the sense of me softens, nothing replaces it. Replacement would require effort. Effort is not returning. Your system recognizes this familiar state here. Recognition stabilizes the descent. Stabilization allows further quieting. Breath continues. Inhale barely registers. Exhale slow and even. With each cycle, awareness becomes more diffuse. Diffuse awareness does not cling. Clinging would increase tone. Tone remains low and unchanged. Another breath passes through. Air exits slowly. As diffusion increases, boundaries between inner and outer soften. Soft boundaries reduce the need for distinction. Distinction was part of wakefulness. Wakefulness is no longer being reinforced. Breathing remains consistent. No optimization. Optimization would require comparison. Comparison is offline. Another breath completes itself. Exhale stays long. With comparison absent, identity effort dissolves further. Dissolving, does not feel like change. It feels like less to carry, less weight in the system. Breath continues without interruption. Nothing pulls attention back. The system remains in this softened state. Softness holds. Another breath passes through. Air out, slow and steady. Continuity remains unbroken. This continuity supports deeper settling without reference. Nothing needs to be prepared. Preparation is no longer part of this state. Breath continues. Everything required is already in place. The background state no longer shifts in noticeable steps. Change has become too subtle to track. Breath continues. Inhale barely separates from the pause before it. Exhale remains longer, smooth, unbroken. That unbroken leaving phase keeps internal pressure low and constant. Constant signals do not invite attention. Attention does not need a place to rest now. Rest happens without location. Another breath completes itself. Air exits slowly again. With continuity holding, internal boundaries soften further. Where sensation ends is no longer clear. Clarity has been gradually withdrawn. Withdrawal does not feel like loss. Loss would require comparison. Comparison is unavailable. Breathing remains unchanged. Exhale stays longer than inhale. That ratio continues, stabilizing heart rhythm and vascular tone. Stable tone prevents any return of alert readiness. Readiness does not reform. The system has passed that stage. Another breath passes through. Air leaves slowly. As readiness fades completely, the sense of intention dissolves. Intention required a future reference. Future reference is not available here. Availability has narrowed to continuity only. Breathing continues without internal narration. Words do not assemble. What remains is not silence. It is absence of structure. Another breath completes itself. Air out remains slow and even. Without structure, awareness spreads rather than focuses. Spread awareness does not fixate. Fixation would require contrast. Contrast is dissolved too far. Breath continues. Inhale faint. Exhale extended again. Extended exhale maintains deep parasympathetic dominance. Dominance here feels like neutrality without edges. Edges were used to orient. Orientation is no longer supported. Another breath passes. Air leaves slowly. As orientation fades completely, there is no sense of waiting. Waiting required time awareness. Time awareness has thinned into continuity. Continuity does not wait. Breathing remains consistent. Nothing interrupts. Internal monitoring has dissolved. Without monitoring, nothing pulls awareness upward. Another breath completes itself. Exhale remains long and unbroken. This unbroken pattern prevents any restart signal. Restart would require a boundary. Boundaries are no longer forming. Formation has ceased. Breath continues without reference. No sense of before. No sense of after. As sequencing disappears, identity effort dissolves further. Effort had been quietly maintaining definition. Definition is no longer required for regulation. Regulation is fully autonomous in this familiar state. Another breath passes through. Air exits slowly. Autonomous regulation does not announce itself. It simply continues. Continuing without notice is the deepest signal of safety. Safety holds without commentary. Breathing remains steady. Exhale remains longer. With safety fully established, awareness loses any need to stay assembled. Assembly required vigilance. Vigilance is no longer supported. Support has withdrawn completely. Another breath completes itself. Air out remains slow and even. As assembly dissolves, awareness becomes diffuse and unbound. Unbound awareness does not attach. Attachment would require an object. Objects are no longer distinguished. Breath continues. Inhale barely registers. Exhale long and smooth. This smooth continuity allows the system to settle into its lowest activation range. Range remains stable. Stability here does not deepen further. It simply persists. Another breath passes through. Air exits slowly again. Persistence without depth change prevents any signal to reorient. Reorientation is no longer forming. Breathing remains unchanged. Nothing signals transition. The system stays exactly where it is. Nothing here requires completion. Nothing signals a change now. The system continues exactly as it is. Breath moves without separation. Inhale does not stand apart. Exhale remains longer, continuous. That continuity keeps internal pressure evenly low. Even pressure does not generate alerts. Alerts require contrast. Contrast is absent. Another breath completes itself. Air exits slowly again. With no alerts, the nervous system stops evaluating. Evaluation had been automatic. Automatic evaluation is no longer running. The process has powered down. Breathing remains unchanged. Exhale stays extended. Extended exhale maintains deep parasympathetic dominance. Dominance is steady, not increasing. Increase would be noticeable. Nothing is noticeable now. Another breath passes through. Air leaves slowly. As notice fades, awareness spreads thinner. Thin awareness does not gather. Gathering would require a center. Centers are no longer defined. Breath continues without a center. No point of focus forms. Another breath completes itself. Exhale remains long and unbroken. Unbroken rhythm prevents internal edges from returning. Edges would reintroduce orientation. Orientation is not available now. Availability has narrowed to continuity only. Breathing remains steady. Nothing competes with it. Competition would activate hierarchy. Hierarchy has dissolved. Another breath passes. Air exits slowly. With hierarchy absent, there is no top or bottom. No inside and outside. These distinctions required processing. Processing has reduced below threshold. Breath continues without recognition. Recognition would sharpen awareness. Sharpening is not supported. Support has been withdrawn completely. Another breath completes itself. Exhale remains extended. As support withdraws, the sense of effort dissolves entirely. Not released. Absent. Absence does not require stability. It maintains itself. Breathing remains unchanged. Inhale faint. Exhale long and smooth. That smoothness keeps heart rhythm even. Even rhythm stabilizes blood pressure reflexes. Stable reflexes prevent microarousal. Microarousal does not form. Another breath passes through. Air leaves slowly again. With microarousal absent, the system stops correcting itself. Correction required a sense deviation. Deviation is no longer detected. Detection has powered down. Breath continues without feedback loops. Loops would require monitoring. Monitoring is unavailable. Availability has narrowed further. Another breath completes itself. Exhale remains long and even. As monitoring dissolves, awareness becomes diffuse and quiet. Quiet does not deepen. Deepening would imply movement. Movement is not present. Breathing remains consistent. Nothing signals progression. Progression would require time reference. Time reference is absent. Another breath passes. Air exits slowly. Without time reference, nothing is expected. Expectation cannot assemble. Without expectation, identity effort dissolves further. Effort had been minimal already. Now even that minimal holding is gone. Gone without replacement. Breath continues without ownership. No sense of someone breathing. Breathing is simply occurring. Occurrence does not require identity. Another breath completes itself. Exhale remains long and smooth. This state does not need guarding. Guarding would imply vulnerability. Vulnerability is not present. Safety is implicit. Breathing remains unchanged. Nothing interrupts. Interruption would require contrast. Contrast is fully dissolved. Another breath passes through. Air leaves slowly again. As contrast dissolves completely, awareness loses edges entirely. Edge-free awareness does not orient. Orientation is no longer forming here. The system is past that point. Breath continues. Inhale barely registers. Exhale long and unbroken. This unbroken continuity supports settling without limit or reference. Stable. Stability here does not fluctuate. It holds without variation. Another breath completes itself. Air out remains slow. Nothing changes. Change would reintroduce contrast. Contrast does not return. Your system remains here exactly as it is. Breath continues. Continuity remains unbroken. Nothing is assembling now. There is no structure forming to hold attention. Breath continues without separation. Inhale does not announce itself. Exhale remains long, unbroken, steady. That unbroken leaving phase keeps internal pressure unchanged. Unchanged pressure does not invite response. Response has no place to begin. Beginnings are no longer available. Another breath completes itself. Air exits slowly again. With no beginnings, there is no continuation to follow. Following required sequence. Sequence has dissolved into continuity. Continuity does not move forward. Breathing remains steady. Nothing interrupts it. Interruption would require a signal. Signals are not being generated. Another breath passes through. Exhale remains long and even. As signaling ceases, internal space remains uniform. Uniform space does not vary. variation would be noticeable. Nothing is noticeable now. Breath continues without reference. No anchor forms. Anchors were used to orient. Orientation is unavailable. Another breath completes itself. Air out stays slow and unbroken. Without orientation, there is no sense of direction. Direction required contrast. Contrast has fully dissolved. Dissolution continues without boundary. Breathing remains unchanged. No adjustment arises. Adjustment would imply preference. Preference is faded. Another breath passes through. Exhale continues long and smooth. With preference gone, evaluation cannot occur. Evaluation required comparison. Comparison is absent. Absence remains stable. Breath continues without feedback. Feedback loops are inactive. Inactive loops do not restart spontaneously. Restart is no longer forming here. Another breath completes itself. Air exits slowly again. With restart no longer forming, continuity remains without movement. Deepening here does not change sensation. Change would be detected. Nothing is detected. Breathing remains constant. Inhale, faint. Exhale, long and unbroken. That constancy stabilizes the lowest activation range. Range holds without fluctuation. Fluctuation would introduce awareness. Awareness does not gather. Another breath passes. Air leaves slowly. As awareness thins further, there is no center to experience from. Centering is unavailable. Without a center, there is no inside or outside. These distinctions have dissolved. Breathing continues without ownership. No sense of doing. Doing would imply agency. Agency has softened beyond relevance. Another breath completes itself. Exhale remains extended. With agency absent, nothing needs to be allowed. Allowance would require a chooser. Choosing is unavailable. Availability has narrowed to continuation only. Breathing remains steady. Nothing competes for attention. Competition would require hierarchy. Hierarchy is absent. Another breath passes through. Air exits slowly again. As hierarchy dissolves completely, awareness becomes evenly distributed. Even distribution does not focus. Focus would require contraction. Contraction does not occur. Breath continues. Inhale barely registers. Exhale long and smooth. This smooth continuity prevents any return of monitoring. Monitoring cannot reassemble. Reassembly required variation. Variation is absent. Another breath completes itself. Air out remains slow and even. Without monitoring, there's nothing to keep awake. Wakefulness has no support here. Support has withdrawn fully. Withdrawal continues quietly. Breathing remains unchanged. Nothing signals return. Return would require orientation. Orientation is not available. Another breath passes through. Exhale continues long and unbroken. Your system remains here in this familiar state without effort. Effort is unnecessary. Unnecessary effort does not arise. Arising is no longer supported. Breath continues. Everything required is already present. Nothing signals an ending. The state does not conclude. Breath continues without separation. Inhale does not arrive distinctly. Exhale remains long, unbroken, continuous. That unbroken continuity keeps internal pressure unchanged. Unchanged pressure sustains the lowest activation range. There's no cue to shift. Shifting would require orientation. Orientation is unavailable. Availability has narrowed to continuation only. Another breath completes itself. Air exits slowly again. With no orientation, there's no sense of returning. Return would imply a destination. Destinations are not forming. Formation continues without reappearing. Breathing remains steady. Nothing competes with it. Competition would activate attention. Attention does not assemble. Another breath passes through. Exhale remains long and smooth. As attention dissolves, awareness does not sharpen. It spreads thinner instead. Thin awareness does not monitor. Monitoring is absent. Breath continues without ownership. No sense of someone breathing. Breathing is simply occurring. Occurrence does not require identity. Another breath completes itself. Air exits slowly again. With identity softened beyond relevance, nothing needs to be maintained. Maintenance would require effort. Effort is not supported. Support has fully withdrawn. Breathing remains unchanged. Inhale faint. Exhale long and unbroken. That unbroken rhythm prevents any reassembly of alertness. Reassembly is no longer forming here. Another breath passes through. Air leaves slowly. Without alertness, there is no edge to experience. Edges would create distinction. Distinction has dissolved completely. Dissolution continues quietly. Breathing continues. Nothing changes. Change would be noticeable. Nothing is noticeable. Another breath completes itself. Exhale remains extended. This state does not deepen. It simply continues. Continuation has no marker, no beginning, no end. Breathing remains steady. Nothing signals completion. Completion would require recognition. Recognition is absent. Another breath passes through. Air exits slowly again. With recognition absent, your system remains here in this familiar state. Exactly as approximate now. Approximation requires no monitoring. Monitoring does not return. Breath continues without reference. No time awareness forms. Without time awareness, nothing restarts. Restart is no longer forming. Another breath completes itself. Exhale long and smooth. This continuity is loop safe. Nothing signals a need to wake. Breathing remains unchanged. The system stays settled.